Hi everyone, Nemo here. While the church were busy trying to discipline me for things unspecified, they were also busy celebrating the 100th birthday of President Russell M. Nelson.
Happy birthday, President Nelson. Happy birthday to
And so as not to overshadow the birthday boy, and without further ado, here are my top 5 takeaways from Russell M. Nelson's 100th birthday bash. Number 1, he's not dead. With rumours flying around that Russell M. Nelson was dead already and Dallin H. Oakes is running the show, it's great to see that, at least physically, Russell M. Nelson is doing better than we thought. With that said, his speech was pre-recorded, he seemed to lose his spark fairly quickly, and there were some pretty harsh cuts. So while it could still be true that Russell M. Nelson may not be running the church day to day anymore, he's not quite as close to death's door as perhaps I and others have speculated. Unless of course this was pre-recorded. After all, much of this celebration was pre-recorded. The live elements in the conference centre theatre therefore may also have been pre-recorded. But that would mean that those who attended are not being honest on Instagram and other social media platforms about when they attended, which I find unlikely. Either way, Russell M. Nelson was certainly alive as of the 5th of September, which brings us to our next point. On the 5th of September 2024, Utah Governor Cox met with Russell M. Nelson to let him know that the 9th of September has officially been declared Russell M. Nelson Day in Utah. While I'm not sure there's a ton to say about this, let me know in the comments if you think that's appropriate or not. And while the whole state of Utah may now have to acknowledge that the 9th of September is Russell M. Nelson Day, the whole of Utah certainly wasn't at his party. In fact, point number 3 is that his party was much smaller this time around. For his 95th birthday celebration, Russell M. Nelson lapped up the adulation in the main hall of the conference centre. For his 100th birthday, Russell M. Nelson was much more demure, more mindful. Sorry, that's really going to date this video. But the scenes were more muted. Dallin H. Oakes managed to get his daughter a gig playing the violin, but it was a far cry from the multiple live groups and the hosting by local newscasters that we saw on his 95th birthday. It was in fact much more like a church meeting than a birthday party, I'd say. One part of it that was like a birthday party was the two older relations sat reminiscing about the birthday boy. What an odd conversation this was.
He's a very loving leader. Yes, he's easy to love.
And they treated us to this gem.
To be in a room or in a meeting or in a conversation with President Nelson just gives you the opportunity of experiencing what it would be like to be with the Savior. He is the Savior's representative, and he is our role model.
Being with Russell M. Nelson is like being with Jesus. Henry B. Eyring also mentions something really interesting here about temples.
But actually, the temple building is a lot the same. As I say to myself, that he would, I mean, previous prophet, the prophet Joseph was worried about the finishing of the temple right at the end. They've always cared about, but the degree to which President Nelson has done it, and he's done it on a spiritual basis of saying we've got to offer the covenants to people that are far away from temples. It's the ordinances that make the difference. Let's not be extravagant. Let's make the buildings lovely. It's the ordinances to make them available.
This got very close to undermining the church's current argument on the need for grandeur and size when it comes to temples. Overall, Henry B. Eyring seemed to be struggling in this exchange with Dallin H. Oakes, and he isn't the only person who was struggling. Our 5th point is that Jeffrey R. Holland is not doing very well. He's starting to sound like Boyd K. Packer when he was unwell.
Honoring President Russell Marion Nelson. In doing so, I represent all members of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles.
He also made what could have been a Freudian slip that unveils who's really in charge now, talking about President Nelson's administration in the past tense.
Surely history will note that of the many marvelous characteristics visible in the Nelson administration, one quality that was almost invisible was the warm and productive unity that Russell M. Nelson maintained between the First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12 Apostles.
Of course, I could be reading too much into that, but it certainly caused my ears to perk up. So there we are, those were my top 5 takeaways from Russell M. Nelson's birthday. It was just a quick video to please the algorithm gods while I prepare to fight for my membership. To stay up to date with all that, be sure to subscribe, and if you don't know what I'm on about, click just here.